Now, fast forward and getting into cannabis, because I'm going to try and go in order. So you had your nutraceuticals, and then of course cannabis. And
Good.
yeah,
Yes.
how does Irwin
Yes.
work with that?
Yes, good. And by the way, appreciate you flowing with my circuitous mind. I'm a non-linear thinker, but do help me to eventually touch upon the nuclear Armageddon that is today's stock market, right? And
we'll get to that. Trust me. We'll talk.
Okay.
We'll talk stocks. That's coming.
So, all right. So let's talk about cannabis. So basically, there are no household name brands in cannabis. So if you take the most successful, or let's say the largest market cap cannabis companies on the Canadian Stock Exchange and the other exchanges that have cannabis companies, you will find not a single company that has a name recognition beyond 1% of the population. They have brands, but because the government laws in the US do not allow an operator in one state to bring their brand to a different state, you never really get big famous brands yet in this environment. It would require a famous brand to come from outside the cannabis industry and be brave enough to put their famous brand into an association with a controversial thing like cannabis. And so you can imagine a lot of companies that have big brands. I mean, when you get to a household name brand, I mean, it can cost $1 billion over 10 years to advertise your way to that level of household recognition. So you don't want to risk the golden goose often. I did though. I said, heck, we're at 91% of Americans surveyed would vote for federal legalization of cannabis. So that means a lot of Republicans too, right? That's 91%. So, and the Congress polls similarly, right? Congress people on both sides of the aisle would support this. Bottom line is, it's not so controversial anymore. It's not a risk. So I said, I was greedy for the Coca-Cola first mover advantage, because when I was 27, I got a taste of that and benefited from it. So I said, well, why don't we become the Coca-Cola first, like the world's first household name in cannabis? All we have to do is just put our products on store shelves in dispensaries in Canada and US and in any other countries where it's going to be legal. And then I realized the problem. And the problem is the IRS. So if you think about it, you have 39 out of 50 states at this point have legalized marijuana in one form or another, whether that be recreational or medical. And so the federal government still sees it as illegal. So that's kind of strange. We just added the 39th state very recently, and every month or two, or every quarter or so, you're seeing another state join the bandwagon. What happens when we get to 50 states that have it legal and the federal government still says it's illegal? That's getting awkward, right? So we're on our way to federal legalization. There's no doubt about that. And so the tax structure is bizarre. If you have a cannabis company, let's say in California, the federal government says you cannot deduct out of your revenue, you cannot deduct rent, employees, insurance. In fact, you can't really deduct anything other than the cost of the input materials, like the raw materials. But when a product is made by a company, actually the majority of the costs are to pay for the CFO and to pay for all of the rent and the employees and just everything else, the electricity. So in any event, you can imagine if you can't deduct those costs, and then the IRS says, we want to charge you tax essentially on your gross revenue. Well, literally almost impossible to be profitable under that. That's called Rule 280E in the IRS code. But if you license, like Coca-Cola shows up all around the world, and a lot of times it's just licensed, right, to a manufacturer or a distributor. And consumers don't care. Like consumers are used to the concept of that. And as long as the brand is there, they know that the brand owner is probably policing, you know, the integrity of the distributors. So it's the same as if the actual brand owner, you know, manufactured it. So we're licensing, and there is a second benefit from licensing, which is that we can move very, very fast, like a thief in the night, to license to all these people without spending our own money. CapEx investment to build factories and distribution systems and growing systems is very, very costly and takes many years to break even. But for me, I like to move quick to take the first mover advantage. And so beyond the CapEx cost that we don't have to pay is the speed. I mean, it's just a bunch of pieces of paper that I sign for these licensing agreements in all these states. So, and then the final thing is that in dispensaries, mostly you're getting people buying flour, you know, just the plant, and then they're buying concentrates and a little bit of gummies, right? Those are the main things. So the concentrates go into the gummies, and people also vape the concentrates. But you don't see a lot of nutraceutical formulas, such as, you know, like what we make. Power to Sleep is a very popular product in Canada and the US, where people will go into their local, you know, pharmacy like Walgreens or Walmart or Costco or Whole Foods, and they'll buy Power to Sleep and they'll use it, and it's a very effective formula, and they'll use it for many years. And now those same people who shop in the mass market are the exact same people who shop in dispensaries, and it's quite shocking to them to see Power to Sleep, right? When they see that coming very soon to a dispensary near you, they see that and it's like, oh my God, my mom uses Power to Sleep. That's been in our kitchen cabinet for years. And now it's with THC. My goodness, the marijuana industry has gone mainstream, and they throw a bottle of Power to Sleep in their bag at the dispensary as an impulse purchase. So it's incremental revenue for the dispensaries and the licensees in the given state.
That is that is genius, because you've already established one brand in one market,
Right?
and it's crossing over now with the same family.
Right. Yeah. It's just another herb. It's just another herb to us. It's It's a controversial herb, but to us, scientifically, it's another herb that we extract from and put it into our functional formulas in our nutraceuticals.
Where do you see legalization?
It has to happen because, like I said, there's been a survey that was published by Newsweek, which was done by one of the big polling companies, and that was at 91% of Americans surveyed, and that was a fair survey of all walks of life. And they did similar types of less official surveys in Congress, and so it's a case of probably lobbying stuff where democracy breaks down, and the average opinion of the actual voter, somehow the majority doesn't rule when you get a minority of people that are clever at lobbying and holding back the tide. But it can't be held back, not with this many states and this many Americans using cannabis. So I'm gonna, to answer your question, I'm gonna say maybe 2 or 3 years more before federal legalization.
Ooh, I'm going further. I'm a 5 to 7 guy.
President.
I'm a 5 to 7. 5 to 7.
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised. So for us, we're playing it safe, Barrington, and we're just saying, you know what? The benefit of federal legalization is almost boils down to one thing: Rule 280E, that ridiculous tax rule that I explained. And so we're impervious to Rule 280E. And by the way, if we collect $10 million in revenue from our cannabis business, since it's all licensing, guess what our profit margin is? I mean, something in the high 90%, because it's just licensing. Like when Disney licenses the Pocahontas doll name to a toy maker, Disney makes approximately 100% profit margin on that revenue, right? So we're laughing all the way to the bank in terms of our business model with the licensing structure, and we're not impatiently waiting for federal legalization. If it takes as long as you said, that's fine. Our model's good. And if it gets federally legalized, that's also good for us as well.
That sounds like a pretty good investment philosophy. If one were to be giving investment advice on the show, which I can't do, but I think our audience can read between the lines. Moving forward along the same lines, but different, we are now into psychedelics. And please note, audience and listeners, psychedelics is not cannabis. It is not the same market. It is completely different. Although both can be used for the treatment and betterment and all of those positive things. From an investor point of view, from a timeline point of view, these are two different lanes. And Irwin Naturals is now into psychedelics through the purchase of clinics, ketamine clinics. I think the last press release said you were up to 9.
We're at 11 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's moving very fast.
And I'm not sure how many states you're in for the psychedelics. I think I read 4, but it could be more. 5.
Yeah, so let me tell you why we're doing the roll up. So when I was younger, I met Wayne Azenga once, and he had rolled up all of these trash collection businesses into waste management companies. So there's a strength in numbers kind of thing when you get to economies of scales in a roll up. And at that time that I met him, it was around the time that he was rolling up video rental stores for Blockbuster Video that he founded. So he was going for a Coca-Cola first mover advantage. And the way he saw it at that time is, okay, we've got 7% of American households have a VCR, and the tech analysts are claiming that within a brief few years, like 3 years or a short time period, we're going to get to 90% penetration of VCRs in North America. So if that was really true, then the way that Americans would consume movie entertainment was going to have a sea change, right? And so he believed that and knew that he needed to achieve the Coca-Cola first mover advantage to get the largest national footprint of these video rental stores. And if he would have opened stores, the Blockbuster stores at that time organically, by leasing locations and building them out, it would have been too slow to achieve the land grab that you need, where your land grab is a mind share land grab that you need to do in a foot race for an emerging new sector where you desire to have the trophy of achieving the Coca-Cola first mover advantage. So he then said, we're going to two-step this. We're going to run around and acquire countless mom and pop video rental stores and slap the Blockbuster sign on the front and put our POS system inside the store. And we'll aggregate a national footprint so fast that we'll be able to catch our breath and start opening Blockbusters organically where we lease the space and open. So, and he pulled that off, and the analysts were right. And 90% of households in a brief few years had VCRs. So, and nobody was ever able to come remotely close to the 5,000-6,000 Blockbuster locations that they achieved. So inspired by that, we're moving into psychedelic mental health in the same way. We believe that there is a sea change coming in the way that Western medicine treats mental health and the mental health crisis. And we believe that sea change is psychedelic mental health. That's what the science says. It's moving very, very, very fast. So ketamine is the only FDA-approved psychedelic. So it's been named by the World Health Organization as an indispensable drug. It's relatively safe because it's so well understood and well used as an operating room anesthetic, for example, or anesthesia, aid in hospitals around the world. And then the FDA approved ketamine for depression, and that's a drug that Johnson & Johnson got approved called Spravato. And so in any event, there are 600 ketamine clinics in the US and a few more in Canada. And these are ground zero where the new, say, psilocybin, MDMA-based future FDA-approved mental health drugs will be distributed through. So we're locked and loaded as we're acquiring all of these profitable ketamine clinics. If there's a ketamine clinic or a chain of them that is profitable and run by owners that are ethically oriented to be in this space to provide healing and not make a quick buck on an emerging industry, then we end up talking to them and inviting them into the family to join our public company and have the benefits of stock ownership. And so you can really think of it as an arbitrage play. So like Barrington, let's say you and your wife owned a small chain of 3 ketamine clinics, and you met me and I said, guys, there's strength in numbers. Let's team up. I'll give you ownership in my company, and which will give you ownership in all these other ketamine clinics that you didn't start. And I'll give you money and I'll help you grow the heck out of your business because you've shown to be a great entrepreneurial family and you've grown your business. And so we want you to stay and work for us. And we're going to pay you again when you grow the business, a generous earnout bonus. And so we'll pay you 10x, 10 years worth of the profit that you're doing now. So let's say you're doing $1 million a year in profit. We'll give you 10 million in the form of stock. But because our stock is trading at a multiple much higher than 10x because of the vertical steepness of our growth trajectory, right? It's how fast a company is growing profits relates to what their multiple is. So we are growing very fast because it's inorganic, right? I'm an organic growth guy since 1994, and a roll-up is the most inorganic thing that you can do. You're just buying other people's profit and what they've established. And so it's very hyper accretive. Every time we close one of these acquisitions, if we're at a 50x our profit and we buy them for a 10x their profit, they're actually getting a generous multiple relative to what clinics sell for in the M&A market. And we're getting something extremely beneficial to the shareholders because it's a 5-to-1 arbitrage. So when you bump into a leveraged arbitrage that's this steep, the name of the game is speed. How many clinic closings can you do in any 30-day period, right? So that's where we'll double profits next year to 56 million in EBITDA. And then we'll double profits in 2024 to 112 EBITDA. So it's a vertical growth story, a doubling algorithm in profits for the next 3 years.
Klee, this has been fantastic information, and it's wonderful to hear. It's wonderful to hear about the business side, but even more inspiring is the work that you're doing to help the world, to heal the world, coming out of this pandemic, or seeing the light at the end of the tunnel of this pandemic.
Yes.
We're going to be paying for this for years. And
yeah.
I don't necessarily mean financially. And
yeah.
That is also another place where you are, because there will, unfortunately, like, I don't want to see this. I know it's going to happen. And we need people like you, companies like you, organizations, not only this one, but the other one, the quantum one, to help make the world a better place. So on behalf of the Canadian Securities Exchange, I want to thank you for your listing. Thank you for your continued patronage with our exchange. But more importantly, thank you to for all the work that you're doing locally and globally.
Oh, thanks for the very kind words. Thank you.
Audience, if you like this, you can check out more at CSE TV on YouTube as well. Don't forget to follow us on socials, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. I've been your host, Barrington Miller. Today, I was here with Klee Irwin from Irwin Naturals, the symbol IWIN, which I love. It's awesome. So, yeah, we'll see you at the next episode, Klee. Stay healthy, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you. Thank you.